But there's a whole lot of other people who have little by little, these things have piled up inside. And because they add up so slowly and so little weight each time, they don't even notice how much weight they're carrying around. They don't notice how heavy it is. They don't notice, like, I'm carrying 500 pounds, but I never knew it because it came at a quarter of a pound every time.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast of Reflections of the Father's Heart. I am once again joined by my dear friend, Seth Dahl, and I'm so excited. We are so excited for this podcast. We're so excited to talk to all of you. I know if you've seen any of the podcasts that we've done together, they're incredible because Seth has such incredible language when it comes to the heart, when it comes to understanding our emotions, when it comes to understanding how emotions flow with spiritual warfare. He's just brilliant in those kinds of things. So I love being with him and I love having him here. And if you don't know him, he is a pastor to pastors. He knows people all over the world. And I feel like every time I talk to Seth, there's somebody in some country that he's connected to that he's helping. So he's got that broadness of experience that really lends itself to, I think, hitting us in a different way. I think when you're connected to people that are all over the world, you have a different perspective. And Seth's also traveled to lots of different places. And I think that also gives him a very different perspective. So I'm really excited. And so, Seth, thanks for being here once again.
Yeah, I know. I love it. I love it when we do these podcasts. They're the best. It's so fun. And we have an announcement for you guys. Sandi and I have recently been partnering together more and more, and we created something that we think is really going to help a lot of people. And it's really a helpful tool just to find out the condition of our heart. It's called Emotional Wellness Assessment. And it's questions. It takes 3 minutes to go through all the questions and just answer them honestly. And then you get a score and you find out exactly the condition of your heart, just how your heart's doing, how your emotions are doing, how you're handling stuff. And Sandi, earlier today, I was just thinking about the assessment and how, like who did we make this for and why did we create this thing? I'll never forget. I had a friend who was going through a really hard separation with his wife. I mean, now they're back together, they're thriving, they're doing great. But at the time, he was going through a really hard separation, not doing well. And I told him, I said, hey, I think you need to look into this grief, like just grief recovery, recovering from loss, recovering from pain. And he was absolutely convinced that he did not need it. And but he decided to take it anyway. He decided to come into the class. He gets into the class, and week after week, he was in the 8-week class. Week after week, he's telling me, he's like, I don't really think I need this. Like I'm fine. Like I don't have any trauma. I don't have any grief. I don't have any big losses. Like he was just every week announcing how much he did not need something like this and that he was fine. And then we get to this one point in the class and it all cracked open for him. And he came back to me and he said, you know what? I realized when you talked about the backpack, that everyone comes with a backpack, and then, a little thing happens and it's like a pebble goes in your backpack, and it doesn't add much weight for you to carry around, but it adds a tiny bit. And then, if a huge thing happens, you get like a boulder dropped into your backpack, and it's obvious, like, oh my gosh, yesterday I was fine. Today I'm not okay. I'm being crushed under this weight. I cannot carry this. I need help. And he just took that language, the backpack, and he goes, I realized I don't have any boulders at all, but I have tons and tons of little pebbles. And I realized, like, oh my gosh, there's so many people out there who, it's easy to know if you've had major things happen, major losses, major betrayals, major relationships break up, people die that are close to you, like divorce, like there's so many things that are obvious. Like, I'm not okay. I was okay. Now I'm not okay because this boulder just dropped in. But there's a whole lot of other people who 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 have little by little these things have piled up inside, and because they add up so slowly and so little weight each time, they don't even notice how much weight they're carrying around. They don't notice how heavy it is. They don't notice, like, I'm carrying 500 pounds, but I never knew it because it came at a quarter of a pound every time. It was, another way to say it is like some people die of 1,000 paper cuts. It's like one paper cut, you're going to be fine. Two paper cuts, you're going to be fine. But you get 1,000 paper cuts and you're bleeding out. And you're like, how did this happen? How did I get to this place where I'm not okay? And and so I was just thinking about that, this whole language about the backpack and the boulders and the pebbles and our assessment that we created. That's what it's designed to do, is to help us see, it's almost like, here, let's take off the backpack and put it on a scale. Because sometimes, if you're carrying it around, eventually you don't notice it and your body adjusts and you're carrying all this weight, but you've adjusted to it and it feels somewhat normal. But if you take that off and put it on a scale and you go, oh, it's 100 pounds. Oh, it's 500 pounds. Oh, I'm carrying 1,000 pounds and I didn't know it because it built up little by little by little. Like, that's what the assessment does, is it puts a scale out there to go, here, put your backpack on. So let's see what's going on in your heart. Let's see how you're reacting to situations or not reacting. Let's see what's really going on in your relationships, in your internal world. Just put it on the scale and look at how much it weighs. And then you can decide if I need to do something about this. You can decide, what do I do now? Okay, I'm carrying 50 pounds. Maybe I can continue to just keep going as is. But if I'm carrying 500 pounds, I want to know that. And I think that's what our assessment is a scale to go, drop your backpack on there, see what you're really carrying, get a clear picture of what's really going on. And so I love it, because I don't want anyone dying of 1,000 paper cuts. I that to me is the worst, because it almost deceives us into thinking, I'm fine. I'm fine. I had a great childhood. I had a great family growing up. We had a great life. Everything was fine. It's like, oh, but that little thing that kept happening, and then it happened from someone else, and it happened from another person, and then it happened at school, and that's just how school is, and that's just how family life is, and that's just how friends are. And it's like these things that happen, it's like, oh, it was a pebble, but the more pebbles go in, the heavier that thing becomes. And so we just want to put it on a scale. We just created this assessment to put it on a scale so everyone can know what's really going on. And if I got 1,000 paper cuts, I want to know that. If I got 20, I want to know that. If I got stabbed in the back, I obviously know I got stabbed in the back 4 times by people who betrayed me. But if I got paper cuts all over the place from little tiny things, I want to know that too. And I want to see what I'm dealing with here so I can make a good decision.
I love that. I love the backpack. I just love that analogy, because I think so many times, to Seth's point, we're carrying this backpack and we don't realize how heavy it is. Maybe some of those pebbles came in when we were really young and we got used to them. And then as gradually more things added, it just felt like it was part of our identity. But the challenge, and this is the thing that I think really hit Seth and I as we were creating this assessment, is we understand the prices that people pay when they're carrying a full backpack, whether it's lots of pebbles, whether it's boulders and pebbles and rocks, whatever's in the backpack. We know that when it's full, there's a lot of prices that we pay. It affects our health. It affects our relationships with other people. It affects our relationship with ourselves. Seth and I were talking about this a little bit before, how we live in a society that is so focused on our IQ, on our mental intellect, our intelligence, and how well we understand. But there's been many studies that have been done on EQ, emotional intelligence, and that the more that we gain emotional intelligence, the more successful that we are, the more whole we feel, the happier we are in relationships, whether that's friendships or romantic relationships, and our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with God. And so when you have a backpack that is full of all kinds of stuff, whether you realize it's there or not, it is getting in the way of every area of your life. That is your past that is being carried along with you, because your past is your present until it's healed. And without healing, your emotional wholeness is going to be lower. And I think Seth and I are just so big on wanting people to experience the quality of life that they are meant to experience. That the truth is, I love, Seth, that story that you shared about the guy that was like, I don't need this. I don't need this. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. How many people say that? And yet around them are disconnected relationships. Maybe they're not experiencing the kind of career that they would like to experience, maybe not even financially. And so I love that example, because that is so many people. A lot of times we don't even realize where we are. And so the assessment gives you that starting point. I always say, if we're going to go from point A to point B, I have to be aware of my point A, my beginning point. And
Yeah.
the assessment really helps you to understand, where am I? Now, the beautiful part about our emotional journey is that it can grow, it can get healthier, it can change. So the assessment gives you your starting point so that you know where to go in order to improve.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, because if you don't know where you're at, you don't even know what your options are of where you can go.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't drive to India right now because I know where I'm at. I'm in America. I can't just get in a car and go. I could go to Alabama because of where I'm at, but it opens up our options to know what's available, how long it's going to take to get, like on a map. Like, oh, I mean, we were just talking about you're going to Miami. I'm like, man, that's 8 hours away from me. I know exactly where I'm at, and I know where Miami's at, and I know how long it takes to get there. And then I can make a decision like, can I get there to be with you guys together and hang out, or not? If you were 2 hours away, easy decision. If you're 8 hours away, it's a little bit harder to get there by car. But I have to know where I'm at. I have to know where I'm at, and I have to know what my options are to get where I want to be. And so that's what, yeah, it's a beautiful picture too of getting of what we're doing with this assessment.
I think the other thing too with the assessment is I'm thinking of a woman that went through grief recovery not too long ago. And she was excited and she came into it and she was giving her heart. But when we got to some of the deeper tools, she came to me and she said, I have to tell you, I'm having this experience of wondering, have I done any work at all? Like, I've
Um,
done therapy and I've done other modalities and I've done these other things. And for some reason, it feels like I've done nothing as I'm doing this work. I'm having all these emotions come up and I'm really surprised. And I said to her, I said, listen, this doesn't take away from the work that you've done. I'm sure you've done great work. And I bet it was cognitive and maybe some of it was even spiritual, but this is emotional. This is hitting an emotional lane. And I say that to say that if you are someone who is on a growth journey, first of all, we greatly commend you. We fully believe that that sanctification, that growth journey is so important. But I want to encourage you that even if you've been on that journey, I would still encourage you to take the assessment, because a lot of what I see is that a lot of modalities out there, as wonderful as they are really designed to help your intellect, or they're designed to help you maybe on a spiritual level. But there's very little out there that actually addresses the heart, that actually addresses your emotional wellness, your emotional wholeness. And so I would encourage you to not sit in a place of, well, I've done work, so therefore I'm okay. Again, I'm not discounting anything that you've done, but the heart is a very different lane. It's a different lane. And in our society and in our Christian communities, the heart is not something that is very often addressed. And if it is, it's usually suppressed rather than addressed or healed. We're usually given lots of reasons to suppress our pain and our feelings and to just bypass it versus actually address what's going on and get it out and maintain our emotional health. And so your emotional wholeness and the way that you relate and connect to people is directly affected by how much is in your backpack, whether you realize it or not. And again, I'm not against the other modalities that are out there. I offer some, Seth offers some. We're all about having wholeness, but there's a passion that you're going to hear for the heart. And I sometimes feel like, I'm sure Seth, you feel like this sometimes too, like a lone voice out there going, no, you don't understand. The heart is so important. I mean, listen, you all, I know you all know my story. I had the boulders, like lots and lots of big boulders in my backpack. And I did lots of other things and they were helpful. But when I addressed all of that emotional pain, my whole life changed. When I addressed the heart, that was a huge part of me becoming much more emotionally healthy. So to Seth's point, sometimes it's lots of little pebbles. Maybe we've had big boulders and we've been doing lots of work, but that doesn't mean that we've actually addressed or even understood the heart.
Yeah. Sandy, as you were sharing that too, I was thinking, like, sometimes what happens, why we bypass our heart is like, you know, a person grows up totally different than you did. Like you, okay, I had boulders, lots of boulders, big boulders. You had tons of boulders in that backpack. I think what happens for a person who doesn't have a lot of boulders looks and goes, I don't need to look at this. I don't need, like, I haven't had anything happen like that. My life is totally different. And it almost, looking at other people that have had boulders or have boulders, it almost becomes a reason why we don't want to look here. And that's why this assessment's important, because it gives you the ability to look here and not compare ourselves to others. Because if we compare ourselves to other people, like, either we think we're horrible or we think we're great, when we might not be. We might not be horrible. We might have just had a lot of bad stuff happen to us, and we might not be great because we've had a lot of little stuff happen to us, but the assessment will show us that. And yeah, we don't want people bypassing the heart. And a lot of times, Sandy, I've had people come through some of this work, the grief recovery stuff, and they they realize how much that other work actually helped. This helps them discover as well, like, wow, this has really been helping me a lot. Like, I've actually really got through some stuff. I've really actually healed from some stuff. And it also helps other people realize, oh no, I have done a lot of work and I missed the heart. I've and a lot, what happens sometimes, unfortunately, is like a lot of the intellect work, the renewing of the mind, training of the mind, if it doesn't address the heart, it almost blocks us from addressing the heart, because we have done so much intellectual work that we think we don't need to look here. And we do. We all do. I took the assessment. Sandy, I went on. I mean, I told you this already, but I went on and took the assessment. And I was like, I'm going to score really honestly and just see where I'm at. And it was really good for me to even just take it and go, oh, that's an area I could probably use some more work in. I'm so glad that question revealed to me, you know what? I have to put somewhat often or rarely, or often or rare. Like, I have to answer that way. It's super multiple choice. It takes 3 minutes. I went through it. I timed it just to see how long it would actually take. And I went through honestly, but some of those questions, I'm like, oh, I have to answer often here. Oh, I get to answer rarely. here, like, oh, that's good. I rarely do that, if ever. Wow, I amazing. Yay, that's good. Oh gosh, I had to put somewhat often or very often on this one. Like, okay, that's an area I need to look at and see what's going on in my heart. Why? Because here's the reality. Out of the heart, we're supposed to guard our heart with all diligence, because out of our heart flows all the issues of life. Every issue of life comes back to something that's going on in here, something that's happening in our hearts. Our hearts are influencing every issue. And just reading the questions, I was like, oh, that's an issue. I want to look at what's going on in my heart there. I'm so glad I took the assessment that we created. We created it, and then I took it. I'm like, this is so helpful for me.
Oh, I so love that because it's so true. Even when we're on these journeys and we've done this work and we've done a lot of this work, there's still areas that we need to address or areas that we can improve in. And I think that's absolutely true. And it was reminding me, Seth, as you were talking, that, here we're getting close to Thanksgiving, right? We're starting to get into the holiday season. And one of the things that I would say to all of you out there is, sometimes we can be going along and think I'm doing okay. And then Thanksgiving rolls around and now I'm around family that I'm not normally around. And then all of a sudden, the overflow of my heart and the issues are streaming forth. And I'm deeply affected because I haven't seen Uncle so and so in so many years. And oh my goodness. Or I'm getting around that holiday season and I realize that I'm not where I thought I would be, and I start having these feelings and maybe they're depressive or they're anxious, that's even an indicator that you could greatly benefit from taking the assessment, because it'll help you to honestly see what's going on in your heart. And taking the assessment gives you this really beautiful first step to then see where to go. I, in my experience, and, like Seth, I've been out there a long time and I've worked with lots of different people and walked through a lot of different things. And I truly believe that the heart is one of the most neglected areas of our being, and it is one of the most important. Your heart drives your passion, it drives your purpose, it drives your connections, it drives just your ability to feel stable and to have a sense of well-being. That drives from your heart, not your head. And I think a lot of times we can really want to renew our minds, and it's good to renew our minds, but what we don't realize is that even if we're having a lot of negative thinking and we're white knuckling it, right? We're trying to think more positively, you may not realize that it may be something unaddressed in your heart that is driving your thoughts. And so there's a lot that comes from our heart. And so I do want to say that I think the assessment is so brilliant and so easy and so accessible. But I also believe that it's going to, like Seth said, help so many of you, because just getting a picture of where you are and recognizing how your heart is impacting these areas of your life helps to give you a roadmap on what to do and how to improve and how to have a better quality of life. We often say how you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, I love the backpack, because what I know is that when people have full backpacks, your cup is full. It's already filled, but it's filled with things that you're really not meant to carry. We're not meant to carry boulders and rocks and pebbles. Whether we've got lots of little ones or some big ones, we're really not meant to carry them. And to Seth's point, a lot of times we get so used to it, it becomes so comfortable that we are walking around and we're staggering under the weight of the backpack that we're carrying, not realizing that we're staggering because there are things that are affecting our heart that desperately need to be addressed. So the assessment is such a great tool to just take a simple first pass at seeing where am I, and looking at, I believe, the most important component of your being.
Yeah. Sandy, I recently read a book from a doctor, and he used to be an ER doctor. He's a lawyer. Like this guy has got credential after credential, and he discovered something about the heart medically, like the actual physical organ of the heart. And all this doctor focuses on, he's like this. He basically has people do an MRI of their heart because you can't really see what's going on there without an MRI. So they do an MRI of the heart, and he can look at it and he can tell, here's how much visceral fat has grown around your heart, and it's it's leaking toxins into your heart, it's squeezing your heart. And he can examine the heart through an MRI and go, here's what's really going on. You look okay on the outside, but on the inside, I mean, it was really funny what he said. He told this one guy, and I'm not getting off track, this is right on track, but it's medical. This medical doctor, he told this one guy, he said, you look like Mark Wahlberg on the outside. You're strong, you're ripped, you look really good on the outside. On the inside, you look like Chris Farley. Chris Farley was the old comedian that was really overweight, died of a heart attack. He said, on the outside, you look real good, but your heart looks like the heart of Chris Farley. It's loaded with fat. It's loaded. And I was thinking about that going, my gosh, this guy is literally medically, physically examining the heart. And he's telling people, he's going, if you learn how to get rid of this fat that's collected on your heart and is encapsulated your heart, if you learn how to get rid of this, you won't have a heart attack. You can't. You can't have a heart. He said, he was the ER doctor. He's like, I've never seen a person who had a heart attack that didn't have this fat around their heart. And I've never seen a person without that fat have a heart attack. And he's like, his whole thing is, we need to get rid of the fat around your heart. But the only way to know it's there is to get the MRI done. He's, he can look at your face, he can look at your love handles and kind of evaluate and tell you, yeah, you probably got some of that in there. But the MRI is what tells you for sure. And he knows how to look at it. And I don't know, I was just thinking the assessment's like the MRI for the heart, but it's, instead of looking for fat, it's looking for buildup of emotions that are squeezing, that are leaking toxins in, that are eventually going to attempt to attack your heart and shut it down completely, so you go totally numb, or you're not okay anymore, and your blood is not like life is not flowing anymore like it's supposed to, because your heart's been little by little encased in this substance of pain and a unhealthy lifestyle that you probably didn't even create for yourself. It was just passed on to you. But the assessment examines, it slices right in and takes a picture, a snapshot, and goes, here's the condition of your heart. Now, if you need to do something, and we'll show you what to do with it, so that stuff's not leaking toxins. It's not squeezing you. It's not numbing you. It's not shutting you down. It's not going to attack you at some point in the future because you did something about it, only because you saw what was there. And he says, this is what the doctor says. He says, the MRI is so important. He said, as a medical doctor, I can sit down with patients and I can tell them, hey, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this, and here's what you do, and I'm prescribing you these things to help take care of your physical health and your body and your heart. I can, but he said, if I show them the picture of their heart, if I show them the picture of what's really going on inside there that they cannot see from the outside, when I show them the picture, they get really motivated to do something about it. And that's what the assessment is. Here's the picture, so you know what's really there. And this is just the non-medical way to do it. It's very similar. That's a metaphor for what happens in our hearts when there's pain, when there's sadness, when there's loss, when there's betrayal, when there's the little tiny things that just have piled up on our hearts, and it's closing in and squeezing out and shutting down. And most people don't even know it until they see the picture. That's what the assessment is. It's the MRI of the emotional reality of our hearts, not the MRI of the visceral fat, the MRI of what's going on with our hearts emotionally.
That is so powerful. Like, I want you all to grab that visual because it's an incredibly powerful visual for you all to get, that the assessment is giving you the inner picture of your emotional reality. And I love that you're talking about a medical doctor, because as much as we can think, well, the medical doctor is looking at the physical, this is looking at the emotional, they're apples and oranges. The truth of the matter is they're not.
Not.
Did you know that if you have a bunch of rocks in your backpack, whether they're, I love the little pebbles or boulders, when you're carrying a lot of that stuff, the correlation between that and your physical health goes hand in hand. I know of someone who went out of the country, and they were on this trip, and they had an aortic tear in their heart. Like, they could have died. It was a miracle that they were right next to a hospital that specialized in this type of surgery.
Wow.
And they had a horrific, significant loss happen before they went on the trip. And they were a healthy individual. This was not somebody with heart issues or any kind of problem. It was just a miracle that they were close enough to that hospital. But that tear is often referred to as broken heart syndrome. Even the physicians know that when we've suffered a lot of loss and pain, and like Seth said, whether it's built up from little things or whether it's been a big thing, it actually does affect even the organ of our heart. So though this assessment is for your emotional health, and though we're focused on emotional wholeness, I've seen it time and time again in my own life and in many other people's lives. The more emotionally healthy and whole that you are, typically the more physically healthy and whole that you are, because the two are so correlated. So that's
Yeah.
another reason to take this assessment, because I have seen people that have focused just on the physical. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to drink lots of water. I'm going to do all of these things, which is good. We should do that. That's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
But they
Exercise.
have then, yeah, they have then neglected their inner world. They've neglected looking at all of the paper cuts, all of the things that have piled up, the betrayals, the abandonments, the letdowns, the disappointments. They've neglected those things and end up becoming emotionally shut down, and then have these physical issues and go, how could I have health issues? I'm doing all the right
All the right
things,
things. Yeah.
but they're missing this emotional wholeness. This is why I and Seth, we have this passion about the heart, and we want you all to get this, because we want to see your life improve. This is about you being able to improve your life in a way that you never imagined. The truth is, I can't do anything about a lot of the things that have happened, but I can do something about my backpack. And this assessment helps you to see where you actually are.
Yeah. So good.
It's
I
so
love it.
good.
I was just thinking too, my chiropractor used to do the same thing. I'm not trying to drag this out, but every time I would go into the chiropractor, he'd say, "Here, stand here." And he would just look at me for like 30 seconds. And he would go, "How's work?" I'm like, "It's kind of rough right now." He's like, "How you sleeping?" I'm like, "It's kind of not so good right now." He's like, "You're pretty stressed, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I can see it. I can see it in how you're standing. I can see it in how your neck. I can see how you're carrying it physically. Like what's happening in here? You're carrying my chiropractor." And I go, how do you know this? He's like, "Your body shows it. The way you stand and the way you like last week you walked in here and you looked totally different in how you were carrying yourself." And it's just yeah. I love what you're saying, Sandy. Like these two worlds are so intertwined that I think it's good to have the chiropractor give you a look and go, "Hey, what's happening? I'm going to adjust your body. I'm going to adjust your neck and your back." But some of this other stuff is why you need the adjustment. And we're going to give you an MRI. We need the doctor to scan us and go, "Here's what's actually going on." And that's what our assessment does. We want to invite you to take it. Like it's totally free. Just take the assessment. It's 3 minutes. You want to answer honestly, so you get an honest picture of where you're really at. But this is a great tool just to discover exactly where you are, so you know what to do from here.
Absolutely. And one quick thing I'll add as well, when you're talking about stress, I think that's another buzzword too in our society. And I say buzzword meaning like we're familiar, we understand stress. But I think what is less understood is that when you are not emotionally healthy, when you do have a lot of stuff that you're carrying, I like that, I love that visual. Your ability to even manage stress is greatly diminished. And so that's another side of this. A lot of times we're trying to manage our stress levels because we know that being stressed out is
So
not
good.
healthy.
Yeah.
But when you've got all of these little pebbles or some rocks or some boulders in your backpack, your ability to navigate stress and your bandwidth to even walk through stress is greatly diminished. So, not being emotionally whole or healthy has a huge impact on how you're even able to navigate just the pressures of life. And so that's another reason to really take this assessment. If you want to get underneath the stress, kind of get to the root of a lot of maybe the things in your life, this assessment will give you that beginning step. And like Seth said, it's totally free. So we really encourage you to take it. I'll have it tagged at the end of this podcast. You can do it that way. You can visit one of our websites. I'll have those there as well. And
Yeah.
just take that assessment. It's 3 minutes. And I'm so excited to bring this to all of you because this is such a great tool for you to really see where you are.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for being here, Seth. These are so good.
Yes. Thank you for having me again. And guys, thank you for watching and listening, and jump on that assessment. We'll see you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
Bye.